everyone, welcome to another workshop from the Ability series. Today, we'll be talking about making a connection between our visual system and the development of fine and gross motor skills. The session will be conducted by Miss Rita Gendelman, whom you have already known for the past sessions that she has conducted from US. She has been very kind to take out her precious time to conduct today's session. Before I tell you more about her, a quick and brief introduction about ability.
Every child is unique and wants to thrive. Excellent carers can help a child blossom. To achieve excellence, educators and therapists require years of experience and mentorship. We at Ability are obsessed with how we can reduce this time to excellence by bringing the best knowledge from around the globe and yet make it very affordable. We believe this is very important to do for the community. Please join us in the movement to bring out the best in every child. Besides the knowledge sharing from various experts through community webinars, we have embarked on our next journey, and that is to provide you with more knowledge through workshops across learning paths, specially designed for you. Starting with ASD, ADHD, behavioral, speech and language development, motor skills, remedial English, and maths. We intend to cover more areas as we learn from you what you need and create more resources for you. As an Ability member, you will have access to at least 6 live workshops every month, which are part of each learning path, and unlimited access to the past workshop recordings. You will also have access to the resources management tool and the student success tools. If you want to start using them in your practice, please ask our support group. We will send you guides on how to use them. Very soon, we will also be offering you an opportunity to be part of the curated community and mentorship programs. More will be shared when we are ready. As mentioned earlier, among our experts and ability team, we have specially created several resources for you to download and share with anyone who can benefit from them. For every workshop you attend, we will also be sharing the relevant resources with you post your learning. So don't forget to register for the workshops that we have specially organized for you, and continue to give us your most genuine feedback so that we can improve and continue to build value for you. Thank you, and we shall see you at the workshops.
That was about ability, and one more exciting thing that I would like to inform you all that in the month of September, we are launching a certificate training program for managing special needs in mainstream schools. This program will cover everything you need to know about managing special needs. It will talk about development delays in early childhood, the common special needs conditions, inclusive school setups, the collaborations that are required, challenges, strategies, interventions, and much more. The program will be conducted in 10 plus modules, and around 60 plus workshops will be conducted by various speakers. The advantages of this program will be you can learn from whenever and wherever you are. There'll be a regular continuing professional training, and also you get to connect with the global experts community of ability, which is spread across 50 plus countries. Yes, ability community members belong to 50 plus countries. So really, really excited to bring this to you all. If you wish to register for this program, please find the link in the chat box being shared right now and express your interest. And now, without further ado, let me introduce you all to our speaker for today, Miss Rita Gendelman. She's an occupational therapist. She specializes in helping children and young adults on the autism spectrum, ADHD, cerebral palsy, learning disabilities for over 15 years. She has helped over 500 special families and their children. She has completed advanced and foundational training in a variety of modalities like the sensory processing approach, MNRI reflex integration approach, handle approach, osteopathic techniques, sunrise method, and neuro-emotional technique. She has taught parents in educational workshops on topics such as sensory processing disorder, handling challenging behaviors, self-care for parents, and raising a special child. She's mentoring and training supportive staff, caregivers to be able to work with families and their special needs children. We are so excited and delighted to have you here with us again, Rita. And without further ado, I would request you to take because the audience members are really, really very excited to hear from you and learn from you.
Swati, thank you so much for a beautiful introduction. I'm honored to be here. It's my pleasure. And I would really love to start just with a little bit of an overview. What are we going to be discussing today? And let me just share my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so as you know, we're talking about visual motor skills, visual perceptual skills, and how that relates to our overall development, our cognitive development, our social development, our physical development. And a couple of the pillars that we're going to be discussing, one of them is how gravity and the center of balance are connected. We'll talk about that in depth. The role of gravity and how it influences reading and writing. Gravity and gravitational receptors, where are they actually located in our bodies? And just speaking of the role of gravity and how it fully influences our brain's ability to grow and influences our ability to process sensory information overall. As we speak about those four pillars, we will also discuss specifically these two dynamics that are really key to our children's development. And it's how gravity connects to muscle tone and how gravity influences the visual system. And last but not least, we will discuss activities that promote anti-gravity muscles that allow us to stand up and walk upright against gravity. I will discuss different activities. Some of them I have mentioned before. Some of them are brand new. Like rocking, you've already seen. Rolling, it might be brand new. Jumping and climbing is something that everyone knows, but I'll specifically relate it to balance and gravity and our visual system. And we will also discuss the different reflexes that relate to our visual system and our ability to coordinate our muscles in our body. So that's what you're in store for. And let's get started. So let me make this big. Okay, so we are discussing the visual system and how it affects the motor development of our children on every single level. So let's first, what I love and is I want to talk about foundation, meaning that the root cause, what's going on. If we look at the deepest level possible, when we address that foundation, the rest that is dependent on that foundation, it has an easier way to function and express itself. So that's why we're going to talk about gravity. And this is, I just wanted to, do a little cute picture of an apple falling on Isaac Newton's head, who of course developed all the different things about gravity. And the apple is falling down, which means that when we are on planet Earth, there is a pull of gravity that pulls things down. They don't float up. Now, it might be very silly and strange that I would be saying something so obvious to all of us. It's like a kindergartner would probably know that if you ask him. But as we are walking and dealing with our lives, we don't realize how important gravity is to us, how much it influences every aspect of our lives. And when we're dealing with children who have neurological deficits, this basic pull of gravity is very difficult to process. So that's why today I really want to emphasize this specific aspect of our lives. So here's Earth and here's space. On Earth, we have the pull of gravity. That's why we are not flying. We are walking on planet Earth. But obviously, when astronauts go to space, they're suspended in midair and they're floating. Now, what I think most of us do know is that when astronauts come back to the gravitational pull and they come back to planet Earth, very often they have a very difficult time walking because the muscles were not getting that information from the brain that they need to be utilized because they were suspended, because without gravity, muscles are not needed. But what else is affected when you are in a prolonged suspended space outside of gravity is our ability to write. And this is something that most of us, I never knew about until I started looking a little bit deeper into this and understanding what happens to astronauts when they come back from space. So here's, this is not an astronaut writing, but I just wanted to give you an idea that right to left handwriting, mirror writing. And I know that a lot of parents, I work with a lot of children, they see this with their children in school. They do letter reversals. They do things upside down. Instead of writing from left to right, they write from right to left. So the connection that I want all of us to become aware of is that just like an astronaut who comes out of space, they land on planet Earth and they have a hard time writing. They do exactly the same thing our children do. They start demonstrating letter reversals. And for example, this example, right? The P is the other way, the Y is the other way, the K is the other way, it's reversed. So this is how important the pull of gravity is to us as human beings in our ability to write, in our ability to express ourselves. Because without gravity, we don't know up, down, left, right. We don't know where we are. And that's why, because we are confused, because there's no reference of where up and down is, left and right is, writing becomes very difficult, because then we don't know inside of our bodies where's left, where's right, where's up and where's down. But when you look specifically at handwriting, and when you think about how we teach our children to write, what do? We write, some letters are from top to bottom and they're in a line. Some letters start from the bottom to top. Some letters are a circle, some letters are diagonals and lines, but it's very highly organized, and it requires a deep spatial understanding of what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right. When your children have a hard time writing on the straight line, they do letter reversals, the letters are uneven, I can almost guarantee it, 99% of the time, they're having a really hard time processing this pull of gravity, which directly relates to our balance system. And let me show you a little bit more, okay? So let's talk a little bit further about the relationship and gravity and how we physically develop as human beings. So we are talking about gravity, and gravity has everything to do with our point of center. And our point of center, our gravitational pull, is basically right in the center where the belly is. It kind of is in the back of the belly. Sometimes it's a little lower, it depends who you speak to, but that's basically where it lives. So if you're connected to your center of gravity, if your ears are able to process the pull of gravity, then you know where you are, you know your center, and then it's very difficult to fall off balance. And then you can walk, you can negotiate obstacles. If there is somebody that shows up in your path suddenly that you didn't expect, you know how to stop and you're not going to fall. If there is an obstacle on the path, you know how to walk around it, or you step over it and you don't fall, because you really know where you are. Now, you know, when I speak about this, I want to just make sure that we are understanding this is a wide spectrum. Everything is a spectrum because every individual is different. So some of us have more connection to gravity. Some of us have less connection to gravity. But overall, right now, what I just want us to realize is the center of gravity and being able to be in touch with it is what allows us to walk upright without falling. And what is even more important is our head is constantly aligning with the center of gravity. So for example, if this little girl or boy, I'm not quite sure exactly who this is, this cartoon character, if he or she would tilt their head to go to this hand, most likely they would fall down. So what they need to do is be able to right their head. Instead of going this way, they are keeping their head straight up in alignment with the pull of gravity so that they don't fall over. Because the moment they tip their head, they have no choice. They're going to drop on the floor. So let's look at it in relationship to walking. We're all walking all the time, every single day. So here's a person standing straight up. There is the pull of gravity and it goes straight down. The feet are close together. They're just standing, okay? So now the person is walking, and some of us have a short, walk, some of us has longer walk, but the pull of gravity is still under their feet. It's within this base of support. The moment that we leave our head specifically in relationship to gravity, of course, leaves outside the base of support, we drop and we fall. We cannot stand up straight. So this is really, really important because, for example, elderly individuals who have a hard time with their balance system, what happens very often? They have a hip replacement because often they fall and they fracture their hip and they have to go to the hospital to get a hip replacement. Why? Because their feet are not connected to the ground, because they're not able to process the full of gravity like someone else who is maybe a little younger, who's a little more agile, whose gravity receptors are more operational, okay? So just to give you some ideas how the center of gravity, no matter what position you're in, up, down, you're a gymnast, you're flying through the air, you can always look and you can always find the center of gravity is right behind your belly button and your head is always aligned with it. No matter how awkward it looks, no matter how upside down it looks, it doesn't matter. Even if you're upside down, the head and the center of gravity are all one. Very, very, very important. So when we are able to process this pull of gravity, which is so natural, which is something we don't talk about, which is an unconscious process, what happens? What do we have access to? We have the understanding of where we are in space, meaning that this little boy, if he has a real good connection with the pull of gravity, he will know where he's in space. He will know how far, how close his peers are. He will know where the door is. He will know where his feet are under his body in relationship to his hips, in relationship to his head. He will be able to judge the distance or the speed of how fast or how slow he is moving if he was to walk, or how fast or slow his peers are moving. And that is really, really important, because if you have no idea where you are in space, you don't know where others are. And then what happens is everything becomes unsafe. You're constantly anxious. So a lot of children I work with and young adults have anxiety. One of the reasons, I know that there are many reasons, one of the reasons that goes completely unnoticed. Why do children have anxiety, especially children with special needs? Because they are not secure in space. They are absolutely unaware how to get from point A to point B. They don't know if they're going to fall. They don't know if anyone will bump into them. They don't know how fast or slow others are moving. So they don't know how to maneuver their bodies in relationship to other people and objects. And therefore, everything is unsafe. So those children, those young adults who have neurological deficits, there's two ways that they can respond. One way, they sit still and they don't move, because sitting is much safer than standing or being in an open space. So that's a protection response. And now there are other kids who just turn off, because being afraid all the time, sometimes it's overwhelming for the nervous system. And the brain has this fail-safe mechanism where things are too much and they shut down these responses of fear because it's overwhelming for the nervous system. And what happens? We have these daredevils, Tasmanian devils. I have kids that I work with that apparently have absolutely no fear. They're running down the street, they're jumping off high surfaces. They have no fear response. And that's also very unhealthy, because we need to teach our children to have a very healthy fear response. Fear is necessary. Fear is very wise. But when there is too much fear, where you freeze, or where there is no fear at all, meaning that the child is numbed out and those neural pathways are not available, that's also a neurological system that is out of balance. So gravity is a really big deal in our lives, and it's a really big deal for our children. So let's talk a little bit about where are these gravitational sensory organs located, okay? So I keep talking about gravity, but something has to process gravity. So our skull has many different bones, and it houses our brain. And behind those bones, the brain has specific areas where the sensory information comes in, and it gets processed in those specific areas. So this bone, this is called the temporal bone. This bone houses those gravitational receptors that are located in the inner ear, and I'll have you see a little bit more of detail, that are specifically responsible for processing gravity. That's their job. That's all they do is process gravity. So how is it activated? The moment you turn your head, those gravitational receptors are activated right away. The moment you walk, the moment that you shift weight, at any given moment when you move through space or when you move your head, that is when those receptors are excited, they become excited, and therefore the nerve impulse is coming in and they're sending information to the body. We're moving, something's different, something's changing. So we gotta adjust, making sure we don't fall. And it's happening every single second of the day. It never shuts off, ever, ever, ever. So just a little more detail. Please don't be concerned about, there's a lot going on in this picture, okay? So let me do a little annotation here. And so for example, the gravitational canals are specifically, they're in this area right here, okay? This is the snail that processes auditory information. So auditory information comes in through the ear, the pinna, goes through the vestibule, goes through the tympanic membrane, and there's these lovely bones that actually create the ability for us to hear sound that is processed then here. The vestibular system is located right next to it. Now, the auditory system and the vestibular system are very connected. Today, we're not discussing that, but just giving you some seeds so you know how our nervous system works together with other systems to create our reality, okay? So let's clear this, clear, and okay. So I don't know how to get out of this. I'm trying to get out of this, and it's not working. How do I exit out?
Hi, hi Rita. Could you try?
Hi, Swati. I'm trying to exit out.
Yeah. Could you try pressing the escape button, maybe?
Escape button? Oh boy. Why is this happening? I don't know. Escape button. Okay, come on. What's going on? Oh, I'm not sure how to cross it out.
Yeah, possibly stop sharing and try to reshare again after you have stopped sharing. Hopefully that will work.
I'm trying my cursor. The problem is that my cursor is stuck. I don't see where the cursor is. I cannot even press any button. Nothing's moving.
Rita, you might want to press escape.
I know, I'm trying. It's not allowing me. It's not doing anything. I apologize about this. I don't know why this is happening. Come on, stop. Oh, stop sharing. Dr. Debbie, it's nice to see you. I didn't know that you were on this phone call. It's a pleasure to see you. Okay, so let's start again. Maybe this happened because I needed to see your beautiful face. Okay, here we go. Share screen. Let's do this again. Thank you so much, everybody, for your patience. I apologize. I'm new to this annotation. So therefore, here we are. Okay, so we are going to go to the next slide. And here we are. So we will focus today on two things that are really important. How does gravity influence our muscle tone? And how does gravity influence the visual system in our children? So when we are focusing on muscle tone, here's what muscle tone is. Muscle tone is actually not movement of muscles. That is completely separate. Muscle tone is the readiness of our muscles to move when they need to move in response to stimulation or in response to our thinking process because we have some kind of an action that we want to create. So really, really important. It is very difficult to be able to move your body, to move your muscles when they are not getting the information that when they're resting, when they're not moving, that they need to be alert and ready, and they need to anticipate and be open for action. Very, very important. So when muscle tone is unevenly distributed, where it's too floppy or where it's too tight, it would be very difficult to move with agility. It would be very difficult to move in time or move in rhythm. So what's happening is the brain is not communicating with the muscles and not allowing and not giving the message to the muscles. Be ready, be ready, be ready. We're going to move at any moment. Even if it's an hour, it doesn't matter. Be ready, be ready. So when that readiness is not available, we get children who appear floppy. We get children who have tensity. And then we know that the muscle tone is not getting the right information from the brain. And that is something that I want to focus on, because I want to show you, how do we activate that connection? How do we activate the connection between the brain and the muscle tone so that we can help our children to move and be able to feel their bodies and be able to use their muscles in a coordinated manner. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is that the muscle tone is deeply connected to the balance system. And why was I talking about gravity before and why it's so important? Gravity is actually stimulating the balance system, and the balance system's job is to process gravity. That's what's going on. So when we're talking about gravity and balance system, it's really one of the same. And when we're talking about the balance system, that's when we are processing the pull of gravity. And then when that balance system receives that pull of gravity, it actually communicates with the rest of our muscles. Where are we? Where are we? Where's the head? Where are we in space? Where are we? Where are we? So when the balance system works properly, we know where we are in space. We are getting information to our muscles. We are waking up our muscles and saying, be ready, be ready, be ready. When the balance system is not working well, when it's unable to process those gravity receptors aren't able to work properly, that's when we have severe challenges with muscle tone. And by the way, those children who have challenges with muscle tone, it's not just the physical. Everything is affected. It's the physical, the emotional, the psychological. So those children who are somewhat withdrawn and they're fearful of the world, or they don't want to look at you, or you call their name and they're not responding, that's also deeply intertwined with muscle tone. That's one aspect, because if the muscles are floppy, and if the muscles are not ready to move, for you to look at somebody, for you to respond to your name, you have to have integrity in your muscles so that your ear processes information, so that your eyes are able to move together and that the muscles around the eyes are active. So whenever you respond to the world, you have to always use muscles. And if your muscles are floppy, your response is going to be unique, different, delayed, disorganized. So let's talk a little bit about anti-gravity muscles. These are the muscles that allow us to actually walk upright, to move ourselves against gravity, move ourselves from the floor. From as we're born, we have to move ourselves from the floor little by little, gradually. We go through the developmental milestones where we learn to hold our head, we learn to, hold our, sit up, roll, crawl, walk. And it's a process. It's a process. It doesn't happen in one day. So these muscles, they work together. It's a synergistic activation where there's muscles in the front and muscles in the back that work together depending on what movement you need to make. And these muscles, why are they called anti-gravity? Because they pull you up against gravity instead of going into gravity and falling down. So just a little bit further on this organs of gravity, okay? So this little guy is the snail, where I told you that's what processes auditory information. And then we have these green organs, sensory organs, that are called the utricle and the sacula, and they are part of the vestibular system, part of the balance system. And the sacula is the one who actually allows us, processes the pull of gravity and allows us to move up and down. So when we move up and down, the sacula fires up and it's very activated. The utricle is the one that allows us to be able to move front and back. Okay, so when we're moving front and back, this is the organ that is very activated. Now, these are called the semicircular canals, and these three canals are stimulated when we are doing rotational kind of movements, which actually is quite rare for us. It doesn't happen very often in our lives, but it does happen. So these rotational movements are very important. And when we are doing rotational movements, for example, when we're spinning around ourselves, when we're turning quickly this way or quickly this way, it's like almost an arc. These semicircular canals, or if you go, on those attraction rides, and you go upside down and you go in a circle, kids love that, right? Because they are stimulating this vestibular system. It's actually really, really fun when all works really well. So that's the vestibular system. It's up, down, front, back, and around. Okay, so just looking a little bit more at the synergistic contraction of the muscles. Okay, so we have the muscles, for example, here when we bend our elbow, right? So what happens is, this is how brilliant our body is. So the bicep contracts, it shortens, okay, and it pulls the arm towards itself against gravity. And then on the other side, this muscle has to lengthen to support the contraction of this muscle, and that's called synergistic movement pattern, where you're contracting one side and the other one is relaxing and expanding. And basically, these are how all the muscles are constantly working together as a team. So what allows us to activate these anti-gravity muscles? What allows us to bring those sensory organs in our inner ear that processes the pull of gravity? What activates it? So for example, this beautiful little girl, she's climbing, okay? She's climbing, she's doing an obstacle course, and she is actually pretty far away from the earth. So whenever you are further away from the ground, you automatically activate the inner ear. So I just want to tell you, I have this experience. I have a feeling that most of you have this experience with your children, or teachers who have seen kids do this in their classroom. Children who non-stop jump, children who constantly are climbing. Why are they jumping nonstop? Why are they climbing nonstop? Because they are taking care of themselves, because the inner ear has been shut off for one reason or another. And now what are they doing? They're trying to bring it back. They're trying to activate it, but they are doing it on their terms, in their own way, so that they have control. Now, they cannot go past their own thresholds. They are not going to go far enough. That's why we need to help them in order to really, truly open and organize the system. But just for those of you who are questioning, why is my child jumping? Why is he climbing the walls? Why is he standing on the edge? Why is he standing on top of my couch? Why? Because the inner ear, the balance system, the gravitational pull, they're trying to activate it the best way they know how to. So let's look at some more varieties, some more activities that children are doing that really help the inner ear and to activate this balance system. So we all know, as occupational therapists, you've been with your children to the gym, and very typical swings are very, very typical. And you know what, quite honestly, I love swings. There are so many different types of swings. I highly recommend them. There are very inexpensive swings that you can put in your home, where you could hang it up and then you put a child in there. It's like a womb, it's like a cocoon, and you just, the child climbs in there and they're just going up and down, up and down. It's a really lovely way to give predictable rhythmical activation into the balance system. Now, there's also this kind of hammock. Okay, you can also do slide front and back type of rhythmical movement. Very beautiful against anxiety, very wonderful way to calm children down. Really, really lovely. I've used swings a lot. I've recommended them a lot. And I just find them to be wonderful, obviously with very few exceptions. Sometimes children are so afraid of movement that if their feet are not touching the floor, they cannot be in a swing because they're so petrified, because they're so scared. So that's when I say, well, clearly your child is not ready for a swing. So let's be present with your child and what they are doing. And let's start with the floor. Let's start with something very, very simple. And there are a ton of things that we can do on the floor without needing to use a swing. And I'll show some of those activities today. So then something as simple as just, throwing a child up in the air. Once again, know your child. Some kids will absolutely have a tantrum and will be very afraid, but some children, they cannot get enough of this. And what I'm just sharing with you is to activate your own creativity, understand, how do we stimulate the inner ear? How do we stimulate those gravity receptors? By coming close and far away from gravity, coming close, far away from gravity, which meaning from the earth, from the floor. When you do that, coming and going, that's how you activate the inner ear canals. So some more activities, and I know most of you have seen this, but I want us to be reminded, just so if this sparks something in your mind, maybe there's something in your closet that you haven't used for years, that's been hidden away forever. And it's very possible that right now it's a good time to bring it out since you're home anyway. And maybe the vestibular system or the balance system needs a little support. Sometimes we work on it and then we don't need to work on it for a little bit. And then something else happens, a growth spurt happens. Or an event occurred that was stressful, then you have to bring it back out and you have to do a little rocking. You have to use the barrel. You have to use the therapy ball. Bring it back out and see if your child would really be a candidate, and maybe they need to use it once again. It doesn't mean that you're regressing. It means that where they're at, you need to support them and they will actually move further quicker. So a therapy ball, as you know, I'm a big fan. I've showed you many videos and many activities with this. Simple, fun. I love it. You can put a child on their back. You could child on their belly. You can have them sit up. I love just simple rocking. You put a child on the ball and just rock them up and down gently, rock them up and down, hum with them, sing with them, put on gentle music. Just, and if the kiddo is really small, put them with their feet on the ball, prop the ball in the corner, support it with your knee, and let them jump on the ball up and down, up and down, up and down. Simple and highly effective. And now these children are just climbing, on a tree stump. Really lovely. Once again, going up away from the floor, and then jumping back down, going up away from the floor and jumping back down. And you can do that over and over and over again. And kids love it because it's fun. They feel themselves better. They feel their ability to kind of like move through space. They feel alive. When the balance system works and you can process the pull of gravity, it actually gives you impulses to activate your nervous system and actually activate your life force and give you energy into your muscles, into your joints, so that you feel yourself. And that's really important. And by the way, those children who are very withdrawn from the world or appear to be lethargic, very often I do a program where I am working directly with their system of balance to actually, and the reason why I'm working with it is because I want to bring energy into their body. I want to wake up the body. And neurologically speaking, I'm not going to go too much details into it, but there is a specific center in the brainstem where the vestibular system hits that center and it arouses the nervous system. It activates the nervous system. It's almost like you cannot watch TV unless you turn on the button. So the vestibular system, the balance system, neurologically turns on the button to wake up the brain and to activate all the other sensory systems that are always calibrating and always looking to the vestibular system to give its signal, we're alive, we're online. Okay, now we can watch TV. Okay, now we can have eyes. Oh, okay, now we can have ears. Now we can finally process information that was not available to us before, because the balance system is the foundational system. It's the orchestrator for all the other sensory systems. That's why I'm talking about it. That's why gravity and balance is so foundational to everything we do, So I just wanted to show you a little bit. Once again, I don't know where you guys are living, your environment, but I'm just giving you ideas of what you can possibly do with your children when you're out, maybe, when you're traveling, when you're going somewhere. I use nature. I love nature. So this is pretty advanced. Obviously, this is not for everyone, but I just think it's really cool how she's climbing this tree. And this is totally working on her vestibular system, on her system of balance, on her, ability to coordinate her muscles. I mean, this is natural, this is easy, this is beautiful. So if your children like to climb and they want to climb, give them an opportunity to climb. Really, I'm serious. Find ways to give that to them. Let them work it out. It's really important. And then this simple thing, I think it's really cool. This is really working directly on that balance system because she is actually moving her feet, which directly relates to the head. And now we're activating because she's moving and her balance is being challenged. the gravitational receptors have to constantly process information of gravity. Is she okay? Where is she? What kind of information do we need to get to the muscles so that she can actually not lose balance? And this is really cool. This is advanced. This is challenging. Once again, know your child. I'm just giving you many different possibilities. So now let's talk about gravity and the visual system, because the visual system is so important, and very often it's very misunderstood because the visual system never stands on its own. Actually, nothing ever stands on its own. And the visual system is very intimately connected with gravity and the balance system, extremely deeply connected. So what we have is we have muscles of the human eye, right? We have two eyes, as we all know, right? We have two eyes, most of us do. And we have 6 muscles around the eyes. These muscles move our eyes side to side, up, down, and in a rotational movement, depending on what we're looking at, depending how far or how close we're looking at that. And what is really important is for the muscles of the eyes and the eyes to work together as a team. For them to work together as a team, and for those muscles to move the eyes, depending on how the head moves and how the body moves, what needs to happen? The gravitational pull, the system of balance, needs to be activated to send information to the oculomotor nerves so that those muscles are ready to move, that the muscle tone of the muscles are active, and that they can move in a right time, and that they can move in the direction that the person needs. So we have control over our eyes. Children who cannot look at you directly usually have a highly developed peripheral vision because it's easier to look to the side. They cannot look at you because part of the reason is the muscles are not working together, and the muscles around it are lax, or they have low muscle tone because they're not getting that vestibular information. And what happens is, if they try to look at you, they have blurry vision, and it's extremely uncomfortable. So that's why I never demand eye contact, ever. I actually don't like to demand anything. I don't think it's useful. But I've seen with good intention, teachers, therapists, caregivers ask a child, look at me, just look at me. I'm going to give you this if you look at me. Your kiddos are doing the best they can. They can't look at you. They literally, physically, the eyes cannot move together. They cannot look at you because of these muscles around the eyes. They don't work together well. And if you think of the eyes as binoculars, and you know how you look at through the binoculars, you have to first adjust and make sure that the binoculars are lined up and they're clear enough so you can actually see either close or far. If the binoculars are blurry, you're going to be very uncomfortable and you're going to move away from the binoculars. That's what happens to our children who do not get that sensory processing, that balance system that talks to the eyes and says, we're moving this way, so you got to go this way. Or if we're moving this way, we got to go this way. Okay? Really important. So what I want to say about this is, very often parents come to me and ask me, so our children have visual perceptual issues. We went to the eye doctor, developmental optometrist, and they said that we have issues and we need to make sure that we do visual therapy. So what I say about that is, never do visual therapy unless you're working on the vestibular system and the balance system first, or in conjunction. Because if you're working, and I've seen this over and over again, I cannot tell you how many times, where a doctor says, well, we're going to work on your eyes. Here's the exercises. This is what we're going to do. And the children are really struggling, but they're doing the best they can. They're trying to be compliant. They're doing what the doctor or the parents or the caregivers are saying, or the teacher. And then what happens is they can actually have some progress, but then they lose all of it because foundationally, the vestibular system, the system of gravity, is not supporting the eyes, and they cannot work together. It's not possible. So please, if you take anything away from this workshop, I ask you to please know that the vestibular system, the system of gravity, works together with the visual perceptual system. It cannot be any other way because that's how it is neurologically. And if the eyes are struggling, that means that system is struggling. So we need to address both. You cannot address just one. So just to give you an example of our visual system and the system of balance. So think about it. And I know that a lot of us experience this. You're on a ship, you're on a boat, and you get seasick. seasickness is the ultimate expression of a mismatch between the balance system and the visual system. Now, why is there a mismatch? So what happens is the balance system is detecting movement because there's gentle, subtle rocking going on. It's almost unnoticeable to our eyes, but the system of balance notices every single movement. It doesn't matter how subtle or how big it is. Actually, the more subtle the movement is, the more the vestibular system is able to be receptive and able to take it in and responds to it. So it's sending information to the eyes. You need to move this way, you need to move this way. And the eyes are not seeing it because the eyes are not detecting that there's actually any change. And they're looking out there and they're looking at something and they're focusing at something. And it seems like they're not really moving, but they are. And some of us have such a sensitive nervous system where that visual system is not sensitive enough to pick up that there's something going on. And it's not getting maybe enough information from the vestibular system to accurately understand that actually you are moving, but it's just not always visible. So that's basically the reason for seasickness. That's what's going on. And most of us have it. Most of us have it. And for example, those children who get very sick in the car, think about it. The visual system is looking and there's things moving, but your body's stationary. There's things moving, but your body's stationary. You're moving in a linear fashion, but there's a mismatch between the vestibular and the visual system. And then children get sick, children vomit because of that mismatch of the communication between those two systems. Really, really important. So I want to do a little experiment. I need Swati for this. Now, even though I'm working with Swati, please, 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 those of you who can join, I would really love for you to experience this for yourself as well. And please put your answers in the chat box. And I just want to see what kind of feedback you get from the body when we do this specific exercise. Swati, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, beautiful. So should I stop, Swati, should I stop sharing so we could see you?
Yeah, I think so. That would be better.
Okay, all right, beautiful. So, oops, sorry. All right, here we go. Okay, Swati, thank you so much for doing this with me. So what I'm going to ask you to do in sitting, okay, from center, very gently, turn your head to the right as much as you can.
Right.
Okay. Turn it to the right. Eyes open, eyes open.
Okay.
You're so cute. Eyes open and then come back. Come back to center. Now register how far you were able to turn your head, okay?
Got it.
Okay. Now we're going to do exactly the same to the other side and register how far you can turn your head with eyes open. And slowly come back to center. Okay, beautiful. Now we're going to do the same thing, except now I want you to bring your thumb in front of, aligned together with your eyes. And I want you to move the thumb a little bit first. The thumb initiates the movement. And now you move the thumb and you connect your eyes with the thumb and you follow the thumb to the maximum of your range of motion to one side. Okay, slowly, slowly follow the thumb. Yes, eye and thumb connection. Yep. Okay, let the thumb lead. As far as you can go, as far as you can go. Okay, and register how far you're going. Okay, and then just gently come back to center. Okay, and then just do the same thing to the other side, except switch arms. There you go, beautiful, Just let the thumb lead and go as far as you can. Keep your torso, keep your shoulders directly towards me, square, and just turn your head. Yes, there you go. Beautiful, beautiful. You're doing great. Thank you. Okay, beautiful. So Swati, I want to ask you a question. We did this, turning your head to one side and then to the other side. There was a specific range of motion. And then we added your eyes locked in with your thumb and the thumb was leading. I'm curious, did you sense a difference between one or the other?
Yes, I actually did. So I think so. But the first time when I was doing it, I was feeling through this strain on my neck that how far probably I could go, both while turning my head towards the right and left. But when I was doing it with the thumb, I think so. This became an indicator for me as to how far I can go. So there was some sort of a difference that I could feel.
So you were saying, just to clarify, that when you were actually following the thumb with your eyes, there was a little more a range of motion. You were able to go a little further.
Yes, 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 yes.
Got it. Beautiful. Thank you. So let me just look at the chat. Let me just see, because our audience is they're so wonderful. They're participating, and I want to see what they're saying. Hold on one second. I'm trying to see who said what. Okay, 1 second. Oh, I have to go all the way to the bottom. Forgive me. Okay. 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 So, okay. So yes, there's yeah, maybe you. So Goma said yes, there's a difference, and then Nirmala said when you add the thumb, she can go with 60 to 7 from 60 to 70 degrees. So she said with the thumb, it goes a little bit further. There's a 10-degree difference. And then I think Swati, you would be much better at this than I am. My eyes are like, there's so much information. Maybe you can read it a little bit.
Yeah. So I think so. A lot of people are saying that with the thumb, the motion was a little bit higher. Then some people said that there was with thumb. Okay, this is a unique response. So I would like to read it. So with thumb, I can turn left more. And both with the thumb, I can turn left and right more. So I think so that's what most of the people are saying. Yeah, I was able to move further when I was moving with my thumb. Strain in neck when I was moving the first time. That is something that I also could experience. The visual range is less with the thumb. Okay, this is a unique one.
That's a unique one. Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to. Most of them are saying with the thumb they're able to move further.
Saying with the thumb, yes. So so let me just speak to that a little bit. Let me just make this big. Okay, full screen. Just want to speak to that a little bit. So generally, when we are using the visual system to support our range of motion, it actually helps us to go further along. So what this means is that the vestibular system and the balance system, they work together. So as much as the balance system supports the visual also supports and feeds information to the vestibular. So they're working together. When we just turned without the eyes, it was specific range of motion. And then when you add the visual system, it's communicating to the vestibular system. It's saying, oh, wait, together we can go further. Alone, you can go as far, but together we can go further. And that's how a system works. And it's so brilliant because when we start working with the whole brain and when different parts of the brain start communicating with one another, that's when we get a brilliant mind. That's when we're able to process information faster. That's when our response time is much faster. That's when our eyes, our ears, our sensory systems are really alive and we can really learn much quicker. So this is how our brains work. They need to work together, not to compartmentalize. And that's really, really important. That's why a multi-sensory approach is really important. So we can stimulate many different senses at the same time, when the time is right, of course. So Swati, thank you so much. Would you mind doing one more exercise with me?
Not at all. Would be happy to.
Thank you so much. And please, all of you watching from your home or from your offices, if you can participate, I would like for you to have a direct experience with your body of the difference. Okay. So Swati, what we are going to do is we're going to specifically activate and tune into our balance system. So for this, if you don't mind standing up.
Sure. Let me do my screen settings a bit. Am I visible now?
So much. Yeah. You are beautiful and visible. Absolutely. So Swati, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to turn around very slowly twice. It doesn't matter left or right, but just, do it twice with eyes open around yourself. And you can keep your hands down. Just turn around twice, slowly.
Sure.
One revolution and one more. Yeah. And stop. Beautiful. Okay. So now I would love for you to do the same thing in the same direction, but close your eyes.
Sure. And I have to take 2 rounds, right?
Please. Yes. and stop.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm enjoying this so much. So if you want, you can have a seat, but I wanted to have a conversation with you. I
Sure.
wanted to ask you, did you feel a difference between eyes closed and eyes open as you were rotating around yourself?
Yes, I think so. When I did it with my eyes closed, I was not able to realize how much, if I have actually completed those two turns with my eyes closed. I'm sorry. With my eyes open, I was very confident in taking those two turns and counting the revolutions. But with eyes closed, I think so. It did make a little bit of difference. I was not confident.
Yes, exactly. So, Swati, what I'm hearing you say is that there was a little bit of a disorientation in space in terms of where you started, and to come back to that same exact space was much harder with eyes closed because the vision was not there, and then you had to rely only on your system of balance, and it was not as sensitive or as available to you as you would like, because typically you really rely on your visual system and of course your balance system. But if you take away the eyes, the balance system kind of doesn't know what to do, especially because it's not something that we experience on a daily basis. Now, if you would practice walking around with eyes closed all day long, you would probably know exactly when to begin and when to end, but that's not what you do. So that's why I wanted to show this exercise to isolate specifically the vestibular system, and how, when it's separated from the visual system, how much more difficult it is, and how much more adjustments we have to do, and how much more grounded we need to be able to feel the pull of gravity. Okay, so very well done. And Swati, if you can, what are our beautiful audience saying? Can you tell me?
Yeah, just a second. Rita, I'm so sorry. Looks like I'm facing some network challenges. I could not hear the last part of your statement.
Sure. If you don't mind just reading a little bit, just let me know what our audience are saying in terms of this exercise.
Sure. Let me pull my chair a little closer.
Swati, thank you so much. Yes.
When eyes are open, it was easy, but with eyes closed, it was difficult and dizzy. With eyes closed, a lot of people felt dizzy. People said that when they did it with eyes closed, they were more careful, possibly, yes. And so feeling dizzy and disoriented is one of the most common replies that have come from the chat box. This is interesting. And with closed eyes, one of the audience's members is saying, Shankar, that I have used more area with closed eyes, and not sure I'm doing right, and back to the spot where I started. This is exactly what I experienced. However, in my case, I would say I covered less area. So I almost opened my eyes when I was here before completing the second turn. So yeah,
beautiful. Swati, thank you so much. This is a really lovely experiment because we get to know ourselves as parents, as caregivers, as teachers, as therapists, how sensitive our vestibular system is, and how, it's not really trained. We're actually more often than not, we're over relying on our visual system, and then we wonder why our eyes are strained, why do we have so many problems with our eyes, why do we have eye redness, why do we have to wear glasses? Because in our society we're over relying on vision, and we're not getting enough activation for the balance system to support the visual system.
Right.
And as you see right now, the moment you get dizzy, that means the vestibular system is not trained enough. It actually thinks you're in danger. That's what happens. And I just wanted to say one more thing. In terms of the nausea, it also, the system of balance and gravity in eyes, it also, often when we eat something that's not good for us or toxic, we have nausea because it's a threatening response. It's a response that something is wrong. So I just wanted to bring this in because I work holistically. Just a reminder for all of us, when your children are eating food that are not really natural, or have a lot of toxicity in them, or have a lot of artificial flavors in them, it really influences the gut. And then the gut directly communicates with the vestibular system. And the vestibular system is often very sensitive because the gut has a lot of toxicity. And that's also a big issue. I just wanted to remind all of us that's part of the problem when you're looking at your child from a holistic perspective, okay? So Swati, thank you. You're a beautiful model. I appreciate you playing the games with me. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And here we go.
Thank you, Rita. It was a
So we just did this exercise. And now we are going to look a little bit at some games, and we're going to talk how to integrate some of these reflexes that help us to actually calibrate the vestibular system and the visual system together so that our children have an easier time to walk, to learn, to socialize. And this is the Landau reflex, and I've discussed it a little bit in the breath and posture workshop last time, but I only spoke about the anti-gravity muscles. I really didn't talk about the visual system. And I wanted to remind us that when the baby head goes up, when the hands go in the front, this is now a connection between the head and the shoulder and the arm. So now we're training the visual system, the head, the neck, and the shoulders and the arms to work together to prepare a foundation for eye-hand coordination. Okay, very important. And I'm going to show you a couple of exercises that I have shown you before, but I just want to remind us all that repetition is important, and just reminding you that, you know, each activity or each reflex that I show has many different levels, and it can address many sensory systems. Okay, so this is just a way to test it. I showed it last time. Once again, these are anti-gravity muscles working. Head, shoulders, upper chest are away from the floor. And then we have this, and I showed this last time, but I want to remind us how we are rolling the ball to each other back and forth. And once again, we are eyes, head, neck, shoulders are moving. And this is an incredible activity for eye-hand coordination, okay? To support that eye-hand coordination, even though we're doing it on the belly, on the floor, it directly relates to your ability to sit up straight and right, and your ability to stand and catch a ball, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, there's a big ball. Same thing, depending on your child, you can do the same thing with the big ball, which is much easier. And if your child is not able to do with the small ball, do it with the big ball. Okay, so just rolling the ball back and forth, really, really fun, really, really easy activity. You can do this at home, in the backyard, wherever you are. Just a gentle reminder, this is really beneficial for the eyes and for the hand coordination. So now let's talk about this symmetrical tonic neck reflex. It's a mouthful. It's a very interesting, the names. The doctors who invented them give them the names. And I've discussed this one also in the previous workshop. And this why it's important today, because this reflex, when it's not integrated, it's going to prevent the binocular vision. As I mentioned before, remember the two eyes, like binoculars, need to work together. Otherwise, it's hard to make sense of the world. It's hard to look at somebody. It's hard to shift gaze from near to far. It's hard to clearly see images and shapes. So very important for binocular vision. And I'm just going to give you some new, very simple activities that are really fun, that train the visual system to work together with arms, to work together with the neck and the shoulders. Okay, here we go. Very simple activity. You can obviously use distance. It depends. These children are deciding to do it this way. You can also move further away or move closer away, depending on what's going on with your child. Make things simpler or make things easier. And you can also, if you want, you can make this more complicated by moving around. If your child gets bored and they are really enjoying the game, you move further away, and now they don't know which way you're going to move. Are you going to go move left? Are you going to move right? And they have to try to get it. Are you going to move the bucket up? Are you going to move the bucket down? So you can make this, adapt the game to your child so they feel a level of success. That is the number one. Okay. Okay, this one I just love. I use this all the time with the families I work with all the time. This is so wonderful, easy, fun, and very, very powerful for the visual and the balance system to work together.
Balloon toss is another simple game you can play. Take turns hitting it back and forth without letting it touch the floor. Count how many times you can hit it without letting it fall. To make it even harder, only use your feet. Remember, exercise should...
So, really, really great. I want to talk a little bit about this. This is extremely important. It's, once again, it's one of those things. If you walk away with one or two things from this workshop, I want you to be able to do this activity with your children, because what happens with the balloon, it moves slowly. So most of the time, the visual system, if it's not receiving proper information from the gravity receptors or from the balance system, it actually has a hard time processing anything that moves fast. And then what happens? Aversion happens, avoidance happens, and your children close their eyes and they move away from the stimuli, from the balloon, from the ball, but well, they could sometimes move away from the balloon, but the balloons are a safe way to start training the visual system to anticipate slow moving object towards the eyes, and the eyes have a chance to adapt, and they can now predict, well, it's moving slowly, but I have a chance to actually connect with the a balloon and reach my hands and see if I can touch it. And because it's light and because it's just so much fun, it's a fabulous way to really activate that vestibular system and that a visual system to work together. Because as the balloon is coming, you have to move your head. You have to look at it. You have to connect with it. The moment you shift your head, the moment you move your head, you activate the balance system. Now the balance system is supporting the vision. And now the balloon is moving, it's activating your vision, and now you can connect with it. This is how I start building that neural pathway between the visual and the balance system. Super important, super fun. You can do this laying down on the belly. You can do this, a child is laying on their back and you drop the balloon on them. You can, once again, your child could be, if he wants to climb on the sofa, he can stand on the sofa and you could throw it to him and he could throw it to you. You could do it in sitting. You can do it on a balance beam. It doesn't matter. There's so many ways you can do this, but I'm telling you, use balloons. It's a fantastic, simple, fun activity that most kids enjoy. And it's extremely therapeutic. Okay, so I wanted to discuss this specific reflex. I've discussed this before in my previous workshops, and I wanted to bring it back today because, once again, it deeply relates to the visual system. This is called fear paralysis. And when it's not integrated, what happens is when a noxious or threatening stimuli comes into the vicinity of the child, what happens is he starts blinking, or he runs away, or he or she freeze. And that's what happens with fear paralysis, because it's basically fear. It's a response to fear. And we have many ways we respond to fear. One way, we freeze, and that kid who gets hit with the ball because he didn't move out of the way, because he froze, because he couldn't process how fast or how slow the ball was moving, and he didn't know where it's coming from, and he wasn't prepared to catch the ball because maybe muscles were not ready and the vestibular system was not activated. Or the other response could be intense blinking and covering the eyes and maybe running away from the from the ball. That also happens very often. It depends, but that's the two ways that a child can respond, primarily because this fear paralysis is overactive, and it's really fear paralysis. It's just all about fear and protection. So the brain and the nervous system protect the individual from a stimulation that might be painful to their nerve receptors. Okay, so this is very, very important to do. And I've showed this before, but I want to show it to you again because it is so, so important for vision and balance. Okay, so this is how we do it. So it's rhythmical tapping.
Very specific.
5 different points.
1,
and do it slowly.
2. 1, 2, 3. And you can do that 3 times. And then the next point is right here below the deltoids on both sides. The same rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then the next point is inside between the elbow and the shoulders, right here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And the next point is on top of the hips, and my hands are a little bit in a cupped position, right here, right in front. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And the last point is right here, legs open, Chelsea, and inside in the instep, okay, right here, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then this side right here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then you repeat this tapping on.
So what I wanted to share about this is that I spoke to you about a healthy fear response. So we want to make sure that we have enough fear to take care of ourselves, but we don't want to completely, we don't want our fear to fully disappear. So with this reflex, if you do decide to do it, which I highly recommend, do not do it every day. I would recommend 2 to 3 times a week maximum. And when you do it, you can do 2 or 3 repetitions at a time, but then let it go and then wait a day or 2, and then you can do it again. And please, also very important, do not do this reflex 2 or 3 hours before bedtime. Okay, make sure you wait, because this reflex is very activating for the nervous system. It could bring up fear. So your child will have a very hard time falling asleep. So make sure that you honor that. So now let's talk about this reflex, which is actually a reflex I've never discussed with you yet. And it's very important, especially for those kiddos who are in the school system. Very, very important. Okay. If it's not integrated, then we have an issue with this head, eyes, arms movement, and that hand-eye coordination is going to be compromised. And this one is definitely one of the most prevalent reasons why children fail in school. And it's because it influences the ability to read and write. And obviously, when we're in school, we need to be able to listen, we need to be able to respond, we need to read, we need to write. And when those skills are compromised, it's very difficult to succeed in school. So what happens here? It's an archer's pose, okay? And as you could see, what's interesting is that there's 2 halves of the body. There's one half of the body that is in flexion, and there's another half of the body that is in extension. So this reflex teaches us to understand the different sides of the body, so left and right difference, which allows us to know our center of gravity. When we know 2 different sides, we know where our dominant hand is, we know where our supportive hand is, we know our center of gravity much more clearly. And then if we know our center of gravity, that means the balance system is much more accurately informing the rest of the senses how to work together. So very important. If it's not integrated, what happens is the child, every time, imagine your child is in school and they need to write from left to right. So every time your child's head turns one way, then the hand goes out, and the hand goes out. Now, what are they going to do? They have to override the reflex. So they have to pull their hand in, but it's very, very difficult because you do it every time. How many times can you pull it back in? How many times do you override the reflex? Because the head and the shoulder and the arm are so connected, they haven't separated yet. So every time you turn your head, your arm goes out to the side. It's like this. Your arm goes out to the side. And what happens is that then these are the children that sleep on their desk and they lay down. These are the kids where they are very disorganized desks. These are the kids who have poor handwriting. These are the kids who have they're low endurance. They get exhausted. They are also, their notebooks are always to one side, to the extreme, where they're not able to do anything in the midline, because every time they turn their head, they prefer one side over the other. What happens often is that because this is not integrated, sometimes the brain just shuts off this mechanism. And because constantly fighting with this arm and constantly overriding this reflex is exhausting, so what happens is the brain shuts off this mechanism. And what happens is we have low muscle tone. Low muscle tone very often is connected to unintegrated primitive neonatal reflexes that are still highly, highly active and are preventing our children from fully being able to participate with life in all dynamics, because it's exhausting. It's literally exhausting. So that's what I want to say about this asymmetrical tonic net reflex. A mouthful as always. Now I want to show you the integration. What's interesting is that I'm going to show you an integration that is slightly, it's not so typical, because typically the integration is on the back, left, right, but I want to show you something a little more foundational. It's even more important, because there's something that we have in our nervous system. It's also called the reflex. It's called the abdominal reflex. This reflex looks the same like this asymmetric tonic reflex, except it's on the belly, but asymmetric tonic reflex is on the back. So what happens is they're very connected. And when that abdominal reflex is still active, it actually suppresses and prevents the integration of this one. That's why I'm focusing on this first, because if this is not integrated, and most children I work with, this reflex is not integrated, it's even below the this reflex, and you can't integrate it. It's like you have to know to go even below. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. And it takes definitely, you know, it requires you to really slow down and to really be with your child.
Start with the right leg out. Right arm.
So you see,
touch
it's
your nose.
one side is fully flexed, the other side is fully extended, head together with thumb. This right here is the foundation for eye-hand coordination, okay? Very, very, very important, very important.
Count to 3.
And it's also really important, as you could see, this woman is turning her head and then she's moving the hand down. So this is going to allow your children to separate the movement between head and shoulder. Because if this reflex is still active in the child's nervous system, the head and the arm is still tethered together, and then they have to do this every time. So we're separating the movement of neck and arm. Very, very important.
Arm down, leg down.
Count to 10. I'm going to move this a little forward just because of time. She's counting to 10, and you count to 10 with your child.
Then lift your left leg out to the side, left arm.
She's doing exactly the same thing on the other side, because I told you, this reflex allows us to understand left and right side differences and allows the left and right hemispheres to work together as a team. It's training our body to find our center between learning the difference between left and right. So she keeps doing it back and forth, back and forth. And I recommend for you to do this with your children. Really, really important, really wonderful and powerful. Let me show you just as she finishes it. She counts to 3, turns your head.
Turn your head to the right. Push your arm down.
Okay, and then she starts all over and she keeps doing this over and over again, but you got the full gist. So you can do this once, you can do this twice. You cannot do too much of this. Really, really important to do it slowly and make sure that you count with your children. Sometimes it's very helpful because they know what to expect. Now, if your child cannot do this by themselves, here's you can do it, how to do it passively, okay? This is what you do passively.
To help to integrate.
Okay, so same thing. One side is flexed, one side is extended. There you go. Wait for 5 to 10 seconds. Extension, flexion, two sides are different. Turn the head separately. Very important to turn the head separately. So shoulder and head are separate now. And there we go. And now she does the other side, exactly the same thing, and switches sides. And she goes back and forth, back and forth. And once again, you can do this as many times as you need passively as well. Okay, this is very powerful. It really makes a big difference. And then there's just 2 more that I want to show you, okay? And this is directly linking the vestibular system, the balance system, with our vision. Very, very important. Okay, so take a look at this.
Let's take some different objects. I have a variety of different pens. So we're gonna, the goal is that you want the child to be turning their head themselves. He's coming up. Now Ben has really been working on sliding on the back, which means his spinal gland, if spinal gland was active, this would be a real challenge.
Okay, what's really cool about this video is that she's connecting the vestibular system with the visual system by having him rock himself. I have showed you in previous videos the rhythmic rocking. I've showed it to you actually in previous workshops many times. I'm a big fan of rhythmic rocking. This child is doing rhythmic rocking. One of the best ways to activate the balance system, because it's so gentle and it's already, you know, you're on the floor. So the gravity receptors are lined up to be activated, and then you add the rocking. So it's, if the vestibular system or the balance system is compromised, this is a beautiful way, in a safe way, to start building up that inner ear canal and that receptivity towards gravity. So don't forget, if you go back to the other workshops, I basically talk about rhythmic movement all the time because it is extremely, extremely powerful. So she's You go back and forth,
So
back and
slide it on
forth.
the back.
Okay,
We're just
so that's one way to do this. Then there is another way to do this. Okay, so now on all fours, this is also really lovely. You change, you're a little further away from the floor, which is activating the pull of gravity right away.
Okay, here we go. He's gonna turn, look at the duck. You don't have to go that far. And he's going.
Okay, so very, very powerful exercise. This child is doing his best. Obviously, he's just learning this. He needs more repetition. He needs more training, but he's doing really, really well, trying his best to follow the object and activate the inner ear canal, which is where the gravity is processed and the balance system lives. So very powerful, very simple, but very, very powerful. Okay. So here we are. I'm at the end of my slides and I'm very much ready for Q&As, Swati.
That was a fantastic session, Rita. Very informative, very helpful. And as we could see and read from the chat box, so many people learned so many new things today that you helped them to know and learn. So before I begin with the Q&A session, I would like to remind the attendees that if they wish to attend the next workshop from Ability, please find the link in the chat box. Also, if they wish to attend the next webinar planned from Ability, which would be on how to teach children with special needs online by Eric, please find the link in the chat box. If you haven't already registered, do register. And I would also like to inform all the existing premium members that since we have given premium access to all of you till the 31st of July 2022, we would highly appreciate you all to register for the events that you are interested in attending, because we have a whole lineup of events planned for you in this month and the next month. Okay, now we have received a lot of questions, Rita, but I would like the attendees to ask the questions themselves from you. So the ones who would want to ask the questions to Rita, I would request you to please use the raise hand feature and talk directly to the Rita. The first one that we have is from Khadija. Over to you, Khadija. Hi, Khadija, could you hear us? Okay, looks like Khadija is facing some network issues. So while we wait for her to come back, I'm allowing Malvika to ask her question.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, Malvika, I can.
Yes, ma'am. It was a very informative session. Thank you very much. And my question to you is, like, do all kids with ASD have autism? All kids on autism spectrum disorder, do they have ADHD? Because ADHD, it can exist as a separate condition itself, right, ma'am? Or do all kids with ASD have ADHD?
I'm sorry, I'm smiling because Malvika, you caught me a little off guard. It's a beautiful question and I will do my best to answer it. I wasn't expecting it. I was thinking it was going to be something about the visual and the balance system. So you kind of caught me off guard. But let me respond to you in a short version. So absolutely ADHD exists separately, 100%. And then also ADHD could also exist as a comorbid diagnosis together with autism. Absolutely no doubt. It comes in all forms, all shapes, all sizes, and ADHD can exist as without hyperactivity, and it could exist with extreme focus, but the child is very hyper. So it all depends. There's many presentations, many variations, and it's really important to find out why it exists and what is the root cause. Because for me, sometimes my experience, when you integrate the reflexes and you work on the balance system, the concentration and the focus comes in. Not all the time, because there's also many other dynamics. There's the social, emotional, family dynamics. There is obviously the gut, which is very important. And there are many different reflexes. But I find it very interesting that ADHD can be very much supported through the sensory motor systems if you know what you're doing, and if you're doing it from the bottom up and you're doing it specifically and systematically. So that would be my answer. I hope that helps.
Yes, ma'am. And also, I would like to add, like, but do all kids with ADHD have sensory issues? Like, do they have sensory issues? Because in autism, all kids, they do have sensory issues. But with the kids who have ADHD, do they have sensory issues necessarily? Do all of them have it?
I believe, once again, I'm not an expert. My sense is, and it's possible that Dr. Debbie is here, she might respond, but I wanted to say my understanding is that not at all. Not all kids with ADHD have sensory issues. Just because somebody is unable to focus, it does not mean they have sensory issues, because lack of focus could also mean they're not interested. Lack of focus could mean that they don't have enough energy in their body to produce ATP, which is our energetic center. So there could be many different reasons, and it does not mean that it's sensory driven.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. And also, if I'm so sorry, I'd just like to add on to this. Like, how do we differentiate as a kid is growing up? Okay, some kids with ADHD, you're saying they may have sensory issues. It's not for sure they do have, but they may have sensory issues. And kids with ASD, they are born with sensory issues. Like, all of them have it. So, how do we differentiate if our kid has ADHD or AHD as they're growing up? It's very difficult to differentiate between the two. So
it is difficult. That's why it requires a really in-depth, observation skills. It requires a lot of questioning. It requires an in-depth, understanding of the nervous system. And what I wanted to say is that diagnostically speaking, when doctors are diagnosing, I think there's a lot of confusion what they're looking at. So just because a doctor told you have a diagnosis of ADHD, that does not mean that is true. I'm sorry, I'm speaking from experience. A lot of times kids that I work with who have ADHD have been completely misdiagnosed. So I'm just speaking from experience. It doesn't mean you have to go and re-diagnose your kids and that all doctors are bad. It's not at all. We're all well-intentioned, but there's a lot of confusion about the topic. And there's a lot of confusion about the way the brain works.
Yes. Thank you very much, ma'am. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely, Malvika. Thank you so much for your in-depth questioning. Yes.
Thank you, Malvika. Thank you so much for your questions. However, I would like to request all the attendees if they could ask questions which are more connected and related to today's topic that we have covered in detail, so that we could get an in-depth analysis and knowledge sharing for this particular topic. The next question that I have is from Muhammad. Muhammad, if you could ask your question now. Muhammad, could you hear us? Okay, looks like Muhammad is also facing some difficulty in hearing us. Let me unmute another participant and see if they are able to hear us. Priya, what is your question for today's session from Rita?
It was such a wonderful, beautiful, soulful session, ma'am. Really, I'm blessed to. I don't have any questions to ask you. I just wish you good fortunes and good health. That's all. I don't have any questions to ask you.
Priya, you are so sweet. You know what? I needed to hear that because you know what? I'm only human, and I appreciate so much your love, your support. Thank you so much for willing to share this. Thank you so much.
You're such a motivational speaker. I love you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
just. Thank you very much.
Oh,
great.
God, lovely.
Wow. So if I may point out, Rita, people have raised their hands to be allowed to talk and give you this compliment. That's how much they liked today's session. The next one that I would like to invite to ask their question is Sangeeta. Sangeeta, do you have a question for Rita?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Sangeeta.
Please go ahead and ask.
I'm from Nepal, Sangeeta. Ma'am, we have so many children, but particularly I joined your webinar, ability webinar many times. But exactly what is the point of eye contact for the special children? What is the main activities for the children?
Okay, so Sangeeta, I want to be clear. The main activities for the children to support what?
Eye contact.
Oh my gosh, eye contact. Forgive me. Okay, so you're specifically wanting support for eye contact. So, Sangeeta, there are a couple of reasons why a child will not be looking. Based on today's conversation, I would say please make sure that the balance system is opened and it's able to process gravity. Okay, so what that means is I would start with, if there is a challenge with the visual system and the child is not looking, it doesn't have to be the visual system. If the child is having a hard time maintaining eye contact, what I would start with is the rhythmical movement on the floor, as you just saw this boy do by himself, but you don't have to, you can do it with your child. That's the foundational number one thing I would do right now. And then what I would do is I would either introduce a balloon or a feather or something that your child really likes and is motivated by. And as the rhythmical movement is occurring, you want to add the tracking of the eyes back and forth as the vestibular or the balance system is activated. Why I'm going back to this activity as a foundation, because in order for us to be able to see, the first thing that we do, the first thing is what children do is they do tracking, like side to side. In the animal kingdom, this is what lizards and what snakes do. They're slithering and they're going side to side, side to side. So we're replicating that by having a child lay on the floor, either on their belly or on their back, and they're rocking themselves, or you rock them and then you introduce the visual stimuli. That is the first thing that I would do for the eye contact. Now, that's based on today's conversation, but Sangeeta, I want to say this is multifaceted. Eye contact is multifaceted, and there are many different ways to work on eye contact. You want to make sure that the child is motivated. You want to make sure that you're not demanding for them to look at you. You want to make sure you're not speaking too loudly. So there are a lot of different aspects to it. But speaking about today and the eyesight and the visual system and the balance system, I would do that exercise as a foundation every day.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. The next question that is coming is from Dolly. She's watching us live and she has also put her question in the chat box. I would request other attendees also to put their questions in the chat box so that we could quickly help you ask them from Rita directly.
Yeah, Rita?
Yes, Dolly, I'm all ears, yes.
Yeah. First, truly, I second the previous person who said, bless you. You were brilliant. Okay, and what I really enjoyed about your system is that even though you're talking about one specific system, the visual and the thing, you looked at the child holistically and so respectfully. And it helps us when we are working, because we get so involved and we're looking at children in parts. So that was absolutely 10 on 10. I'm sorry, I'm not being, I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries by saying 10 on 10, but you were absolutely fabulous. Now, my question to you is this, that, this muscle tone and the muscle memory that we are talking about, and how to, when you have to activate the vestibular system and the movement and everything. Now, if one is working with cerebral palsy, like I work with multiply handicapped, children. So
yes.
If one is working with children who have, spasticity, cerebral, multiple, those issues, cerebral palsy and spasticity of the muscles. So how do we then, see, I know in those situations, obviously there's trunk control is a problem, the gravity,
yes.
then the eye contact, hand, shoulder, all of that is all integrated.
Yes.
Now, as teachers, now the children may go for, and invariably they do go for physiotherapy. But as teachers, is there something we should do in this area, or should we just leave it to the physiotherapist? Because sometimes the children are very, very stiff. So one doesn't want to, in our enthusiasm to activate certain systems, I'm just trying to ask you, like, how far should we go or not go, or really leave it to the physiotherapist?
Okay, Dali, fantastic. I love your passion. I feel like I'm matched. Thank you for the question. Thank you for working with children who are so involved. I love it. I love it. I love it. So my answer number one is there are two layers to your question. Number one is, how far do you need to go? You go as far as you want to go. It's completely a personal choice. Some teachers could not care less. Some children care a lot like you. So if you care and if you want to help, I ask you to go as far as you can, 100%, without compromising yourself and without compromising other kids. So that's my first response. Okay, Dali, my number 2 response is, okay, clearly you don't have the ability to work with cerebral palsy as somebody who knows, more of neuromuscular challenges and issues like an OT or PT or an osteopath, okay? So there are certain things that you can do that are basic, that are simple. What I would do is, so if the child is spastic, okay, and usually they are, what I want you to do is gently, without talking, very softly come up to them and gently put your hand in a very conscious, loving way on the child's body and move their hand or feet in the direction of spasticity gently and let it go. If you do that gently, in and let it go, the more you can do that all over the body where you find spasticity, they're going to start being matched. So what happens very often, Dali, is that we try to open up and go in the opposite direction. What we need to do is go in the direction that the brain wants the body to go. There is a reason for it, and you cannot override it. Because if you are going to push away from spasticity, you're going to trigger a autonomic response, fight or flight or freeze, and the child is going to go back into spasticity more, because that's how we operate. Safety is number 1. So what I want you to do is gently, softly push into the direction of spasticity. And the moment that I do that with cerebral palsy, those are my favorite children, because a lot of times people say it's hard to work with them, but they are so open when you know how to approach them. Just move in the direction of who they are and what they are, and you do it all over the body. And I tell you, you're going to see them open up immediately and they're going to smile.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Rita. Thank you.
Oh, my total pleasure. My total pleasure. If you just like, I wish I would hear back from you. If you find me somebody, I would love for you to just like communicate with me via Facebook and let me know, or however you find me, just let me know that what's going on. This is really fun.
That would be wonderful. So therefore, if if your email ID could be, I request Ability, if you could share Rita's email ID. So the email is, I think, the most non-intrusive way. So whenever you can read and whenever you can respond, that would be
okay.
wonderful.
No, you can request. Ability has all my information. You definitely have my permission to get my email. No problem.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome, Dali. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rita. Okay, the next question that we have is from Makina. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Makina, could you ask your question that you have shared in the chat box and raised your hand for?
Okay, you can call me Makena. Can you hear me properly?
Makena.
Yes.
So sorry.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Miss Rita, thank you so much for all your love and courage and a lot of things that you did for all the children. I'm just so proud of you. Want to say a very, very big thank you. Okay, I would like to share with you. Actually, I'm a sense therapist, but I'm still have a passion like you going forward without stopping in anything I do. But somehow or other, it's so sad that I cannot help my own child. So it breaks my heart. I nearly lost my child a few days ago, and I do not know how to seek for help, but my heart told me that perhaps you can help. So sharing with everyone here, my child is a comorbidity in Malaysia, and 1 out of the 1,000 unfortunately been diagnosed wrongly. So sad about that. And it's okay, still moving forward to help her. But unfortunately, her muscles contractions, right, is been occur for 3 years. I just wonder, the things that you show us just now, the AT and R integrations, right? Can I help her to do on that? Because 2 days ago, right, one of the genetics doctors asked my child to go for the NCS and the EMG test. Unfortunately, after that, right, she cannot walk very well now. I do not know why. And she was crying yesterday and telling me, "Mommy, will I be paralyzed someday?" So as a therapist, I feel so useless that I cannot help my own child. And knowing that there's people out there like Rita, as long as we do not, how to say that, still got hope in us, there will be a good news for us in future. And then, so do all the participants out there. I'm saying, I'm telling everyone, do not give up hope. Continue to do the fashion email.
I apologize. There's somebody who's unmuted who's talking. I know it's not on purpose. Maybe Swati, if you don't mind muting her.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you so much. Yes. McKenna, apologies, please. Anything else you want to share before I respond to you?
That's all. I just want to check whether may I, because my daughter condition now, I don't know what's happening. She cannot walk very well after the NCS and the EMG's test, right? Because she always fall down and nobody can diagnose what happened to her now. May I use the anti and integration for her? Do you think so, Miss Rita?
Okay, McKenna, let me just start with this. First of all, thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for sharing with all of us what's going on for you. I just want to honor that. It takes a lot of courage, and I feel your pain, and I understand this is not easy. So I just want to really be with you for a moment and just say thank you, okay?
You're so welcome, Miss Rita.
You have a lot of courage, you have a lot of passion, and I can understand the challenges you're going through very, very deeply. My second response is, what I want to say is that the truth is, I don't want to just randomly suggest things when the situation is so delicate. I would love to offer a couple of sessions for free of charge for you to, because it's such a unique situation, just to take a look and see what I observe in your daughter. Because right now, for me to answer you would be very irresponsible. I do not know the way to go. There's something going on that is very specific that I need to observe, discuss, ask questions, also intuitively feel what's going on, because sometimes we don't know the answer. Sometimes we need to ask our intuitive selves to see what's happening. And as a therapist, I don't have all the answers. All I know is that I'm willing to help. I'm willing to open my heart. Once again, askability for my email. And I don't have a lot of time, but I will create some time to at least take a look and see what's possible. Where would I start? Maybe there is someone I can refer you to. Maybe I can suggest something. I don't know, but I'm willing to try this. So that's really the most honest that I can be with you in this moment.
Who's the person in charge ability? Please do give me Rita's email, please. Thank you so much, Miss Rita, for your kind help, because I really lost. I feel like, you know, as a therapist or as a doctor or as an educator, right, everyone needs somebody, and we need to continue learning and helping each other to share our knowledge. Yes. So
I 100%.
Yes.
So
never give up, whoever the teachers, the parents who are listening, right? It's not easy, but I'm so proud of everyone out there that you're stand up for all the special needs, whoever the children that is in need, especially ability to organize all this workshop. Thank you so much. A big thank you, how to say that, for everyone, especially Miss Rita. Thank you so much.
Bless you, bless you, bless you.
Thank you, McKenna. It is because of community members like you that Ability is able to do what we are able to do. And when community members like you come forward and share your experience, I'm sure it motivates so many others. Thank you for being so appreciative of what we do. And we definitely appreciate what you did as a mother, as an educator, and we'll try our best to help you as much as we can. Moving on, we have a couple of more questions. So I would quickly, but before I move to the questions, I would like to inform our attendees that we have some additional resources apart from the beautiful slide deck and presentation shared by Rita, which could be of help for you for this particular topic. The link to those resources are being shared right now in the chat box. The next question that we have is from Lily. Lily was the first one to ask the question in the chat box. Lily Marlina, could you ask your question directly from Rita now?
Hi, Rita. Sorry. I'm from
Absolutely. Hi, Lily.
Indonesia. Yes, I just want to ask you about my daughter. I think she has a low muscle tone. How to low muscle tone? Because it's very difficult to learn how to ride a bike, and then her balance is not really good. And then when she sits, she always sits in the front of the chair and so on. And then I want to ask about what kind of activity that I can give it to her to improve her low muscle tone. Thank you.
Yes, Lily, you're welcome. And when it comes low muscle tone, it's a large subject because to say that if you do one activity you can address muscle tone, that would be a lie. That's not how it works. Where I would start again, Lily, is to remind all of us, I would start with the rhythmical movement because it's gentle and because it allows to open up the balance system to be able to receive gravity, and that right away connects with the muscles and it allows the muscles to wake up. So that's the foundation that I would start with. However, if you don't mind, if you can go back to some of my previous workshops, what needs to happen is she needs to really have integration of the other reflexes. And usually when it comes to low muscle tone, you start slowly one by one, and I gave the foundational reflexes in basically all of my workshops as much as I could. I didn't give all of them, but I gave a lot, enough to start with. If you can just do some of those games, if you can do some of those basic reflex integrations and activations, every reflex activates the muscle tone. Because movement requires muscle tone. You cannot, in order to move, you have to use your muscles. That's just the way it goes. So anytime you do those integrative movements of the reflexes and the rhythmical movement, you are directly addressing muscle tone. Besides also nutrition, besides what's going on with her gut, which unfortunately I cannot address, but I just want to make sure that you are aware that that's very important for building muscle tone, because we need amino acids. We need those basic building blocks to build our muscle. And I'm not sure if she has enough of the building block on a cellular level to build those muscles. So it's the reflexes, it's the rhythmic movement, and building her muscle tone through nutrition that have to come together.
Okay. Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome, Lily.
Thanks a lot, Lily. The next question that we have is from Rashmita. Rashmita, if you could ask your question, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Is that Rasmita, Rasmita? Could you hear us? Okay, while we wait for Rasmita to come back to us, Claire, do you have a question to ask from Rita? You did raise your hand. Okay, so there are lots of questions, Rita, that are coming in through the chat box, but looks like possibly the attendees are facing some difficulty in unmuting themselves and asking the question directly to you. But since there are so many of us waiting to hear from you, I will quickly proceed to the next one. Sujana, would you like to ask your question from Rita now?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Rasmita. Hi.
Yes, hi, ma'am. I'm so glad to see you. Your presentation is so soulful, and it is really amazing. I have enjoyed and I learned many new things. So thank you very much for being here with us. My question is little. I'm working in a early intervention center as a early interventionist. So very young children, we have screening every day from 3 months onwards. So how we can prevent the vestibular dysfunction who all are having high risk in newborn? So that we can prevent vestibular dysfunction, they won't have the disorders like ASD and ADHD. What kind of natural activity we can provide them at home for early stimulation?
Rashmita, beautiful, beautiful question. I cannot thank you enough. So what my response to it is, what I would do, okay, I'm just telling you what I would do. I would start testing the reflexes, because the reflexes are all present basically from birth to 3 to 4 months of life. So if you test the reflex, for example, you touch a child's foot, like Babinski reflex, you scratch a child's foot and his foot goes like this, that means there's an active reflex, and that's a good thing. Now, if you go like this and there's no response, you know there is an issue. Through reflexes, you get the absolute understanding of neurology and what's going on. I could tell you right away what's going on. So that's the way that I would do it. Specifically, I would look at developmental milestones. What is a child supposed to do and not supposed to do at 2, 3 months, years, months. So can they hold their head? Can they hold themselves against gravity a little bit? Can they crawl? Are they moving around? Are they using their eyes to scan even a little bit? Are they even trying? So if you see no movement, you right away know there is a red flag. If you see that the child is kind of like, you could see that the muscles are somewhat, you could see, I mean, I guess I have an eye for it. I could tell right away if the muscles are really weak, but that's because I trained myself for it. I don't know if anyone can do that. I just from observation could tell you right away. But you look, Rashmita, you look, trust yourself and look at the vitality of the body and of the child. Are they interested in the world? Are they looking around? Are they curious about the world? If they're not curious, if they're not interested, if there's no vitality, I guarantee you vestibular system and reflexes are not integrated and it's a red flag.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you
My
so much.
total pleasure. My total pleasure.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Rasminda, for being
you,
so
ma'am.
participative. But since we are running short of time, I would take one last question for today. But before that, I would like to inform all our attendees that please do not forget to share the feedback using the feedback link that is being shared in the chat box right now. That will help us improve the experience further for you all. The next question that we have is from Sana. Sana, could you ask your question from Rita?
Hi, Dr. Rita. This is the second time I'm asking a question from you. And I feel so lucky that I attend every webinar of you because it helps me to understand my child more and work on her in a proper way. So my question is, whenever I make my girl go round in speed, so when I stop, when I make her go round, I just go round and round with her. So what I feel like, I feel dizzy and I feel like sitting on the chair. But what happens? She walks away normally. And then it's so surprising and so strange for me why she's not feeling dizzy and why she is not behaving the way other kids do. She just normally walks away.
Oh, Sana, what a beautiful question. Thank you so much. So much. I'm sorry, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, one more thing. She was having many problems with balancing before, but I had done reflex integration for some time with her. And I think it must have helped her because now she's able to climb the ladders, movable ladders by herself. She climbs down and she's able to jump, hop and all. That was a problem before. But this is the observation I'm having nowadays. Why she is walking away normally, she should feel some kind of dizziness. What's the structural imbalances she is having in her head? What's the problem?
Sure, Sana, sure. First of all, let me ask you, are you a mom or are you a therapist? Are you both? I mean, obviously
I'm a mom. No, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a mom.
I'm just asking because you said you've done reflex integration and you said you feel like you're very knowledgeable, and I know all the parents are, but I just feel like I was just wanted to clarify. Anyway, thank you for answering. So Sana, I wanted to tell you, first of all, reflexes are fantastic. I'm the first one to tell you that reflexes are really, really important. Now, there are many reflexes that are still unknown, number one, and number two, reflexes and rhythmic movement are supportive of one another, and very often reflexes I do as a secondary to the rhythmic movement. So the vestibular system is very, very, very vast. It's very profound. It's foundational, and it actually really, really, really often shuts off for kiddos who have neurological dysfunction because the world moves in such unpredictable, strange ways. It affects hearing, it affects visual systems. So very often it just shuts off, the brain shuts it off so that it creates less confusion. And what happens is if it's shut off, you do not get the signal of dizziness, which is a natural response. We need to get dizzy. it depends, of course. You could train yourself. You don't have, you're not going to get dizzy if you train yourself like ballerinas. I used to be a ballerina. I used to spin around nonstop and I was dizzy. And then I was trained to, to make sure that I'm looking at an object. And then when I look at an object and I trained, the dizziness went away. But with your daughter specifically, what I would say is that she is not processing gravity the typical way that the rest of us are. So what I want to ask you is, even though she's not processing gravity typically, I want to know, how does that affect her function? Because I care about function. If it doesn't affect her life, that's okay. But if it affects her, then it's something that's very important to look at. How does on a daily basis, besides you being worried that she's unique and different, do you see any dysfunction or any challenges with her function?
Not exactly physically. I find many difficulty in a function, but yes, she is nonverbal. She has difficulty.
Okay.
Yeah, she has difficulty in auditory processing, and
Oh.
she has a problem in visual memory. She has many problems.
I got it. I understand. Well, I'm not sure if I would call it problems, but I understand that her development is slightly delayed in some areas. So I hear you loud and clear. So what I want to say about this is the vestibular system is involved in everything. Okay. And because you did reflex integration, you were able to empower the vestibular system to a point, but you didn't take it all the way through. So what I would do right now is I always go less is more. I would I would do as much rhythmical movement on the floor as I can with her, as you can. Just put her on the floor, get her to do rhythmical movement on her back, on her side, on the belly, whichever way you can. Have her do it, you do it with her. And also the other thing that is super important that I want you to do is I want you to do rolling on the floor. So you know how a child rolls around themselves on the floor? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. What is super important, Sana, is to do it as slow as possible, because very often when you rotate too fast, you shut down the nervous system further. You shut it down. To open up the nervous system and to open up the vestibular system, you have to go very, very slowly. And then she'll get dizzy. I cannot tell you how many kids spin around upside down, nonstop, no response. You put them on the floor. You do slight rotation and they throw up. So make sure, Sana, you slow it down. You do it on the floor, rhythmical movement and gentle rolling. I'm telling you, very powerful stuff.
Okay, Rita, I'll do that. And thanks for your kind informations and the lovely webinar. Thank you so much.
It's my total pleasure. Very much. Wish you lots of luck.
Thank you so much, Sana, for that interesting question. Hope many others could also learn from the experience that you had. And that kind of brings us to the end of today's session. It was such an interesting experience once again having you here with us, Rita, and learning so many new things which we already did not know. So many community members must have benefited from the knowledge and experience and insights that you shared today. Thank you so much, Dr. Debbie, for being on the panel as well. I would like to inform and remind our attendees that you will be sent an email to download your certificate within 3 hours after the workshop ends. Also, the workshop slide deck, the recording, and other resources associated to this particular workshop will be available on our website 3 to 4 working days later. You'll be sent an email then when the resources are ready for you all to access. So do not forget to check them out, and also do not forget to share your feedback to help us improve further. And now, Rita, how was your experience today for conducting this session?
Oh, I enjoyed myself tremendously. And I just want to kind of share, I'm so present to this beautiful love that we created, all of us. And it's incredible when you open your heart, how much healing occurs without even understanding or knowing what to do. It's the first thing that has to happen. And I'm just so blessed to be with all of you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your willingness.
It was so good to have you here with us, Rita. Thank you so much for joining us. That brings us to the end of today's workshop. Do not forget to register for another webinar from Ability, where we'll be talking about how to teach online children with special needs. Also, another workshop from Ability, where we'll be discussing in detail the executive functioning for children with ADHD. The link to both of these events are being shared in the chat box right now. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. That brings
Thank
us to the end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.